Well, this is technically take two. Cool. The last couple of days have been a real struggle. I'm going to say that right now. Still working on the script more. I didn't think these scripts would take as long as they do. Then again, it does kind of make sense given, well, knowing the history of filmography as a whole. Scripting something that you want to last somewhere between 10 minutes to an hour can take quite a long time to actually put together. So that's a thing. But I guess right now that's like the least of my concerns. There's been a lot going on recently. I'm not going to talk too much into it, but it's been very hectic. I was originally planning on doing Persona tonight, but I was planning on saving that for next week. Like just back to back Persona next week. Try to get through as much of it as we can before 4 Revival comes out. We also got Code Vein we gotta work for, which is after this stream when I'm gonna be grinding in. I'm gonna try to level up in that one as much as I can. That way, next week we can also try to work through the Code Vein No Partner run, including the DLC. Because of the, I didn't think about this before, but because of that DLC, we're probably going to start Code Vein 2 a little bit late. After it releases, we'll see. Those are kind of the two main ones I want to focus on. Where is it? I know I'm talking about plans again. Don't worry, this is going to be very brief. This dirtbag of a game, this is going to be one of those things that I'll need ginormous breaks between each one stream, because after the stream we did recently of it, I forgot how much of a turd the game was. But it is what it is. Doesn't exactly help the scenario that I'm going through now, though. And it's not just me going through it alone. It's one of those things where it's like society as a whole everywhere is just falling apart. And being the person I am, it's impacting me in a very negative way. Especially when I cross paths with individuals, whether they're personally known or not, and I see them just kind of falling apart for one reason or another. It doesn't help at all. If anything, I see that and I get, well, kind of down about it. Sometimes frustrated, depending on who it's impacting and how it's impacting them. There have been some recent conversations I've actually had where it's like, venting would happen, and to me it's hard to notice whether it's venting or not, just because sometimes venting can sound like an attack if the verbal wording doesn't exactly match the English language, more or less. It's because of how complicated English is. I mean, there's a reason it's the hardest language to learn. It's because it's got the most ins and outs, variants of saying certain things, yada yada yada. If it wasn't for these factors, it probably wouldn't be considered the hardest, because then you could go, okay, this means this means this. But you go into it and it's like this one term can mean these 10 different things. And it's like, so they can't come up with 10 different words, they have to have one word be, that's creative. Good job, Webster Dictionary. Or whoever came up with that stuff. Actually, some people I'm close with as well, because of the recent circumstances, have gotten to the point where they just want to be left alone. I've tried reaching out and they're just silent. They'll block all contact with all things, and it becomes upsetting. Not in the sense where it's like I'm upset with their decision. That's not what I mean. It's more like in the sense where it's like, if they have to do that, something hit them so hard, reality hit them so hard that they can't handle it, and it's painful to watch. That's what I kind of more or less mean by upsetting. I keep hitting the seat. Stop it. Why is that behind me? Wife's ukulele. Don't want it to get ruined though. We'll put that there for now. Anyway. I haven't seen her play this at all recently. But, yeah, when it comes to this kind of stuff, reality's been attacking almost everyone in some kind of way or another. I've heard people claim things like World War III or Civil War II or something like that as upon us. I'm like, yeah, I can see the logic behind that, but that's only if we kind of let it. And by we, I mean a royal we. Like, everyone on the planet we. I don't know, it's just kind of depressing. It's sad. I know this is not what I was originally planning on streaming about. I'll admit that, but where this thing is right now doesn't really want to have much to do with games, more or less. After this, I'm probably just going to tidy up the apartment I'm living in a little bit before moving on. But I don't know. Honestly, I did this stream because I wanted to vent a little bit, and I didn't want to do it in video form. When it comes to, like, videos, I talked about it before. I've actually... Right now, I actually do have, like, the script for the video that's going on up. When I look like this, I'm actually looking at it, kind of reviewing it, more or less. I'm trying to finish up with this thing. I don't know, it feels like it could use a little bit more humor, because it's a lot of back and forth between, like, visual and, well, seeing me in the chair like this. But the more I look at it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, that's just... The video itself also is kind of history-based, more or less. I think there are a lot of cool factors in it, but it strays from the original idea, which is kind of the point, into a different concept. The thing is, I don't know if the video really works in the way it is right now or not. But I digress. Once that video is uploaded, I'm going to take a little video hiatus. I'll still stream, but I want to see, like, where that video goes. That's the thing. And if it gets a lot of good publicity, then, like I've said, Let's Plays will come to a halt, and those will take over. We'll worry about that later, though. Anyway, I won't be talking about that anymore today. I probably won't last much longer in this stream either. Very short stream, but I had some venting I needed to do before I start cleaning and, admittedly, at some point lose my head. There's just been way too much going on. Way too many stressful situations. It's not often you see me, like, with this whole serious look. Speaking of, there is a video that will be coming out sooner. It won't be like the one I'm talking about or anything, but it's an annual thing I've been doing for a while. Every January. There used to be a strict date for it, but after everything that's happened recently, I kind of got sidetracked and didn't face on doing it, so... Other than the one I was talking about a moment ago, that'll be coming out soon, hopefully. Looks like it's going to be given it another aspect, though. I think one thing that I've been told recently, and this is kind of why this whole mentality for me started triggering. It's the idea that, well, I'm an optimistic person, a very optimistic person. If something goes wrong, I'm optimistic about the outcome. If we're not sure what's going to happen, I'm optimistic that something may go right. And it may seem like it's naive and all, but in my brain, even though I'm optimistic, I have a tendency to go, okay, yes, I'm thinking this, but I'm still willing to accept the fact that the other option is a possibility. But my problem is that I only ever seem to come across a lot of pessimistic people, with a small handful of those who are optimistic. And bear in mind, when I say this, pessimistic people, I mean people who are, people, I'm not saying they're not realistic. I'm optimistic, realistic. These people can either be just downright pessimistic or they can be pessimistic, realistic. Problem with these two mixes, though, the realism mixed with either pessimism or optimism, is if you have one or the other, the opposite one, your realistic look will lean more towards one or the other. And the other, the one that it's not, is barely ever seen. This is something that I've started to notice in a lot of people, myself included. I'm optimistic, realistic, but because of the level of optimism I have, I'm aware of the reality of things, and I'm willing to admit it. But I always kind of go, hey, but I'm still going to be upbeat about the chance of this happening. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. We'll just plan for the other. It's naive, sure, but the reason I personally do this is it's gotten me as far as I am in life, which is something a lot of people have a tendency to oversee. Now, as of decades ago, if it was pessimism, realism, it would have the same outcome. The negative thought process would help with the reality of things. And back at that time, those two actually helped you progress further. You would still have a positive mindset in the aftermath, but at least the pessimism, realism helped you prepare for if something bad were to happen. But what if something good happens? A lot of people I've noticed, at least nowadays, if the good thing happens, it's not good enough. That's why I'm not pessimistic. I'm willing to take what I'm given. But unfortunately, from what I've noticed, now there are exceptions to this rule. But one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people have a tendency to, when they think negatively about the future, but on a scale of realism, if the positive outcome happens, they'll be like, oh, but what if this thing ruins it? I'm like, guys, come on, just accept the fact that something good happened. I mean, and there's a lot of reason for a lot of people to be negative about this stuff, but at the same time, how is it impacting you living your life, daily life, day by day? And yes, when I say this stuff, I'm also including immigration. One thing I've noticed in a lot of immigrants is they have a tendency to miss their original culture. And an interesting thing about this is that, okay, and this is something I've pointed out to some of them. Some immigrants that I actually have met in real life. Okay, why did you come here then? Because it's dangerous. All right. Then you're here. You're safe. You get in a proper setting, a proper process. I mean, a lot of people are arresting others for whatever reason. I've heard ISIS has been arresting a lot of people, and then even though deportation is not anywhere it needs to be in the list, it doesn't make sense. But that's topic for a different day. One thing I've noticed is that just the fact that ICE exists makes everyone negative suddenly. I'm like, seriously? I mean, yeah, they've been doing a lot of sketchy things recently, but I mean, the way I see it, they get what's coming to them if they deserve it, which some of them do, not all of them, but I guess for me, it's one of those things where it's like I said, it's naive optimism. Say someone does get deported back to their country, well, their wish would be granted to be part of their culture again. And some of them who have talked about that, by the way, also have claimed they miss their families. But if they go back, they can't come back here. I'm like, you can't have it both ways. You either get one or the other. Which one's more important to you? If family is, then go back. Work with it. Go back and work with what you got. Now, if what you're trying to do here is more important in the moment, then work towards that. You don't get it both ways. This is the naive reality that a lot of them, from what I've noticed, have a tendency to fall into the trap of. They have a tendency to want life handed to them. Here in the United States, you don't get that. Life is never handed to you. You have to work from the ground up. And whatever you're given, you get. This is something that, and this, bear in mind, even some people in the United who were born and raised in the United States under this idea, they act like this too. So it's not just immigrants. But I think the problem I have is that this category of individual, immigrant or not, these individuals are also pessimists. And it doesn't make things bode well. The constant negative thoughts on these things ruin you. It's like that idea, from what I've noticed at least, that idea of like when you get enraged, stressed to the point of anger, it takes off a year of your life, that old school phrase. It's the same idea. Every time a negative thought and you press and believe that negative thought, you're taking like a day of your own personal life away by doing that. Now, granted, sure, if you think as optimistically as I do, you get disappointed often. But when you add the realism aspect, like I do to it, at least when something bad happens, you look at it, okay, planned for it, let's go and do it. Say hypothetically, I was an immigrant. And I got deported. I mean, I'm not. I born and raised, U.S. citizen for life. I'm just kidding on that last sound. Anyway, where am I? I guess the point I'm trying to make is, say I got deported to wherever it would be from. I'd make the best of it. What can I do? There's nothing I can do to change it. So I'd make the best of it. One thing I've noticed in a lot of people is they go to school, they do a schooling visa, and they'll come here for that. And you can't exactly go to school and expect someone to live properly nowadays. It's just not reasonable. So they work. Illegal or not at this point, I don't think it really matters. But, so they work. And they work to make sure they have a roof over their head, that they can pay for the schooling, and that they have food. In that particular instance, those are the three most important things. Well, a lot of them have a tendency to bail. Just drop out. It's either not what they wanted to learn, they're not learning anything new because they already learned it, or it's just too much for them, or there are several reasons I can think of that would make sense. And these are also examples coming from people that I've met in real life. Not anybody I'm directly connected to, just people I've met who I've heard vent about it. I guess in the end, the problem for me is just the idea that immigration has become one of those things where it's like, we're all human. Why are we attacking each other? Why are we trying to get rid of people who have done nothing wrong? And this applies to not just immigrants, but people IRL as well, like citizens. People IRL. I'm sorry, immigrants. Immigrants and citizens. There. That's the phrase I'm trying to say. Holy crap. Another good example of what I'm talking about now is the whole where was it? Massachusetts, Minnesota, Missouri, one of the M states in the United States. United my butt. One thing I've noticed, like that day, what the a member of ICE tried to get in front of a car that wasn't moving, started moving, and they shoot the person 3 times, killing them. I get the whole fight or flight thing, but there could have been, given the fact that they weren't, like they were in a standstill and he moved out of the way because of it, and he was able to because, well, I mean, duh, they weren't speeding already, they weren't driving already, they were at a stopping point. They were not moving, and they started moving. A car doesn't instantly go from stop to 100 miles an hour like that. Easy move out of the way aspect. Now, obviously, cops, people like that, they're taught to, if in a hostile situation, shoot the person under certain circumstances. But the answer has never been kill the person. This is a big problem I personally have with highest up authorities when it comes to officers of the law. I'm air quoting it because that's technically not their title. Military people, ICE, CIA, people like that. Categories of like that. This individual who shot, what was her name? I forget. But I'm so sorry. But one thing that really it bothers me about that whole situation, and immigration is no different. It's like they sent ICE members out, and what are they doing? All they're doing is causing havoc. At the rate things are going, I'm pretty sure ICE is going to be the cause for Civil War II. Or World War III. Probably World War III at the rate things are going, and it's going to be literally everyone against ICE and anybody who supports them. Am I not supportive? No. Am I supportive? No. I'm neutral. Thing is, I do still understand the mentality behind it, but I don't think the action is the one that should have been made. The mentality is, okay, fight or flight, instinct is fight, so he did it. But there could have been better ways to approach it. Shoot the wheels. She's not moving. Wheels can be scratched and holes can enter very easily in a tire, especially if they're used. So shoot the wheels. She no longer can move, and you can arrest her with nobody getting hurt. Yes, she was aggressive. She was hostile. That deserves an arrest. But that does not deserve... I just remember watching the clip. There were news articles about it, but I didn't read the articles because I don't trust news reporters a lot of the time. But I remember watching the clips themselves, the video footage, and made out what I could off of it. And what's interesting to me is that knowing as much as I do about the human mind and visual cues of how someone's thinking and all that kind of stuff, yeah, the neighbors were angry about it. That was obvious. That was given. If you watch the whole clip, I'm not going to show it because copyright, but I would show it anyway since this is live. But I just remember seeing near the end of the clip, one of the neighbors go, "Somebody get a medic." And the same stupid ICE guy looks at her and goes, "We've got medics. We'll take care of it." Yeah, the look in that guy's face, the only expression I got from it was, I don't give an F about this. I do not care about this person. I'm just doing my job. Hate my job. I'm doing my job. I hate it. But I'm following orders. This guy was basically a bot. I'm following orders. Oh, really? You're following orders. What do your morals say? If it was your own kid, for example, if that person was your own kid, would you shoot them or yank them out of the car and chew them out? Well, obviously, shoot the wheels so the car can't move. Because it can't move on those little circle thingies that's in the center. By that time, the car's bumpers are touching the floor. So it can't go anywhere. At least not fast enough to where they can't just... Because of the metal, they can't go anywhere fast. So the ice guy could have walked up to the door afterwards, yanked it open, or broke the glass, unlocked it, yanked it open, or whatever those are called. The point is, he'll open the door while it's slowly moving, yank her out, and arrest her. Much simpler response. No one gets hurt. ICE would get better credibility. And everyone would have been able to move on with their lives. Now, the reason I say arrest, mind you, is because she was hostile. She did technically attack a technical officer of the law. That is illegal here. So, yes, an arrest at least would have happened if he didn't end her. This has happened before in history, and every single time this kind of thing happens, the person who did it, done. The last time this happened was to a... What was his name? It was a lot more aggressive then, so what happened made a little bit more sense, but there was another individual who got very hostile. Difference was he legitimately physically attacked the officer. So, it was a lot more aggressive, so the fact that he passed, it made a little more sense. Still not setting a good example for our country, though. There's something called being the better person. Is that even a thing anymore? But I digress. I went on this little tangent. I didn't mean to go on a tangent about this. It is kind of stupid. I guess the point I'm trying to make with that entire story is the idea is immigration or not, we're all screwed. There are times where I don't say this to anybody up until now. There are moments where I personally expect immigration to just come barging into my apartment at point, grab me, and try to detain me for absolutely no reason, for, I don't know, doing this. I'm not hating on them or anything. I'm just speaking my mind on how I think the situations could have been handled. There's no slander. There's no hate. It's reality. And the only reason I know this is true is every officer of the law is taught the same thing. I have a high school friend who I don't talk to very often, but she is a friend of another friend of mine who I do talk to pretty frequently, who does keep in touch with them every once in a while, especially since this person is also their family friend. But from what I understand, that response was not the right response. And that's what's happening under a lot of situations. I'm very, very mellow about the internet. I need proof, definitive proof that what's being claimed is actually the case. In this one's case, there is proof. It's video footage. It actually did happen. That's why I talked about it. But there are other situations where someone's like, oh, I got arrested by them. Well, I would see that. They talk about it, but then they're at home. Their background is like this really fancy home. I'm thinking, if that's true, how are you where you are now? this is why it doesn't 100%. I'm not 100% on par with the negative things people are saying about this whole situation, but I'm also not 100% on par with the opposite either. This is why I'm very neutral. Evidence supports both sides, but not to the extent either side is saying. Like, a lot of people, for example, for the immigration thing, are saying, oh, we're all going to get deported. Oh, they won't let any of us get a green card. I'm like, I have not seen physical definitive proof of this. Until I do, I won't believe it. However, the idea that we're all safe is very naive, and that is stupid. I have seen proof that that is not true. That's just the thing. I have seen proof of the idea of, no, yeah, our country is screwed. Everybody wants to come here because it's the safest place. No, it's not. Not anymore. Maybe in the 1950s to 70s. Not even then, because Great Depression lasted until the 60s, I think. Okay, 60s to 80s. At that point in time era, yeah, sure, that'd be true. But outside of that time range, no. Never has been a safe place. There's always either been mafias, or wars, or, well, the recent circumstances. And everyone seems to think this is the best place. Same concept with the United Kingdom, from what I understand. Anybody from there, if you see this and I'm wrong, you're welcome to correct me. But I hear they're dealing with the same crap. And the both side thing is an equal problem as well. Different events for different reasons, but still. People's cultures exist for a reason. Those reasons are to make them be able to handle where they're from. A good example of this, let me think. From what I understand, welcome to correct. If anybody who sees this knows I'm wrong about this, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, because it is partial speculation, but it gets the idea across regardless, which is the point. Actually, we'll just use the United States. I don't know why I'm trying to dig. Here. The culture I was personally raised on, is on the western side of the United States at least, is the idea that you need to constantly be working. Other cultures have each family members live in the same building to build up to make sure that they can survive. Here, a lot of us are disciplined enough to... Or not disciplined enough, that's bad wording. A lot of us have been disciplined, there we go, in such a way where living on your own, if you can live on your own and survive, you're good to go. But in other places, if you try living on your own, you could be screwed. Different cultures provide different ideologies, when it comes to survival, when it comes to living as an adult. In the United States case, up until at least recently, it's pretty casual compared to other places, I'll say that. But the disciplinary measure of learning how to live on your own and survive is kind of important, especially since it deals a lot with the financial side of things. Does this particularly mean that anybody or anyone is done for under this front? Absolutely not. Things can be okay. Things can turn out great for all we know. But the reality is, nowadays, I'm seeing more and more people like homeless, for example, but that's because they're not disciplined at all. They don't try to live on their own. Some of them don't even try to get proper jobs. The job I have, it's lowest of the low when it comes to job titles. But it gets me enough to afford a place that, for apartments like what this one is actually kind of expensive. The fact that I have a lowest of the low job and I'm able to get that tells you enough. And the idea of it is, I just think that the people who are homeless or who are complaining that they don't have these specific things, do something about it. Keep optimistic about the future and do something to make that future happen. I'm going to take myself as another example for this. Schooling. I bailed. Stopped going to university years ago. I started doing YouTube videos day after day after day. I do them as consistently as I can. And I was fine with that. I enjoyed it. It was a hobby, yeah, with maybe a potential outcome at some point, but it was still just a hobby. But financially speaking, it's not practical. So, what can I do to act on it? Well, that's pretty simple. Save and go back to school. If I need to do it sooner, I can see what options are available. Grants, scholarships, FAFSA, stuff like that. And this is personal experience. I want to acknowledge, before pressing forward, I'm aware that everyone is different. Different events could call for different circumstances. And yes, I know the situation that, schooling doesn't do anything for you anymore. I know. But that's not the point. You need to actually have the knowledge to do certain action. Like, what I'm going to be doing is accounting. It's a lot more of a practical job. It's something my dad has actually been doing for, I think, about a decade and a half now. Maybe a little less than that. Well, let's see. Actually, it's about a decade and a half. And it's benefited greatly. I see that and go, okay, well, I'm going to apply that. The reason I'm so well in the situation I'm in right now, it's because of that mentality. If I thought negatively, like, I'll never end up anywhere, I would still be making YouTube videos day after day after day after day after day. I wouldn't be married. I wouldn't be trying to do anything like that. I wouldn't interact with anyone. I'd be cooped up in my room doing nothing every single day unless I had to go to work. I have a hard time believing I'd even have a job. That's a problem I'm noticing frequent. It's not just in citizenship, as it may seem like I've strayed to. This also applies to immigration rules as well. I've met a couple of immigrants who have actually thought very optimistically about situations. Now, whether they've gotten deported or green card or whatever, I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've discussed things with them. But I can almost guarantee they're fine. Say they did get deported. They had a plan. They probably abided by it and worked with it. If they got the green card, well, I don't even need to say much more than that. Working with what you have is probably one of the best things you can do to make sure your life is in good stand. Who cares if things go awry? If it is, work with it. What else are you supposed to do? Cry? Yeah, that's gonna get you somewhere. If you end up in a predicament where you feel like you should fight someone with a gun, don't. Now, that's obviously more of an over-exaggeration. I guess my point is, I went off on this long tangent I wasn't planning on. I'll close this up soon. I wanted to speak my mind about all this stuff. Realistically, the reason I talked about all this kind of stuff in the first place, I hear everybody venting about, oh, how ICE is ruining this and that, or, oh, immigration this and that, or, oh, no, it's their own fault, or, oh, no, these people are attacking. It's just like, stop. How about instead of trying to make reasonings or complaints. Focus on you and you alone. This is one thing I think everybody in the world has forgotten. You yourself are the most important person for you to take care of. Can't do that. You can't take care of another person. Like, say you have a kid. If you're not looking after your own well-being, you will fail at taking care of that child. And this is not me just rambling. I've seen proof of this many a time. And you could learn from the child too, if you do successfully do this. But what's the point if you can't even take care of yourself? Thinking negatively will cause you to fail to take care of yourself. Nowadays, once again, from what I said earlier in the stream, if this was like the 1960s or something like that, then yeah, pessimistic thinking would actually help. But nowadays, it doesn't do crap. If anything, it shortens your lifespan. That's it. That's all it does. So, good job for those who are thinking that way. You just lessened your life from living until like 80 or 90 to living until like 50 or 60. Come on. I guess that's like the biggest thing for me in this whole situation is like with this whole immigration or ICE or whatever the hell you want to call it situation, it comes down to your approach to it. Let's put it this way. If anyone I loved and was dear or near to me got deported for whatever reason, anyone at all, what would I do? Easy answer. I'd purchase a passport, visit as frequently as we can until we can get a definitive final solution to this problem. But until that happens, that's all that can be done. Why complain about something you can't control? Why cry over spilled milk? Hell, that's not even enough. It's not just spilled milk. It's milk. You spilled every drink somehow in your fridge. And you're bawling over it. You're not grabbing a rag and just simply cleaning it up. Spray, spray, spray. Wipe, wipe, wipe. Mop, mop, mop. Done. Nah, you're just sitting there on your knees whining and crying as it sticks to your pant or dress or whatever the hell you're wearing. That is the problem with society nowadays. They're not doing anything. They're just complaining. A good example of that off of immigration and this ICE problem, all that, let's look at a new, and yeah, I'm going down this path, gaming-related film. The Legend of Zelda movie that Nintendo is releasing in 2027, I believe, has their official big line protagonist actor and actress, Zelda and Link. The internet was frustrated when it wasn't a very specific actress and it was someone else. What the hell is wrong with them? I put this in my private account as a comment in a video that was discussing this at a point. The comment basically stated, you guys did the same thing with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, animated film that came out 3 years ago. Actually, at this point, I think it's like 2.5 years. So about 2.5 years ago, the animated Super Mario Bros. Movie came out. Great film. I love it. And most of the world agrees. It is one of the highest grossing animated films of all time. Not the highest, but one of them. Hold on. Forgot to close my door. That's kind of important. Anyway, and people complained that Chris Pratt was acting Mario. It wasn't the "Let's go" voice. Woohoo! But they watched the movie They actually legitimately watched the movie expecting bad, and it at the time became, I think it was the highest grossing animated film of all time at that moment. I might be wrong. Someone's welcome to correct me. But I digress. My point is, they loved it. They understood why. After watching the movie, they were like, you know what? Okay, actually, this is great. I love it. I'm looking forward to the next one. But beforehand, before the movie came out, Chris Pratt had like this like Brooklyn accent on Mario, and everyone was mad about it. I'm like, you guys would get utterly annoyed if Mario talked the way he did in the games, in the movie. And that is probably true. And it worked. What Chris did made it work. And that's kind of the whole point of this whole thing. And I could give several examples of this. Whether other filmography that's more known or not, making ballsy choices is what progresses life the most. Whether it's what I was initially talking about, immigration, filmography, another good example of that would be How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Jim Carrey making a ballsy move of making fun of the director, and because he kept it in, it helped emphasize on the movie's charm, which was a really ballsy move, but it worked. Stuff like that. Just stuff like this. When you make choices that are risky but beneficial, that's a good thing. But we live in a society nowadays where no one does this. It's either handed to you or you fail. Anybody who thinks that way needs to grow up. Now, obviously, everyone has a specific childhood. I know that. But even still, there's a certain level of it where it's okay, but the rest of it, no. Anyway. Okay, well, I've been venting for almost an hour now. My goodness. I guess what I vented about for the most part is kind of just what kind of builds up what's going on in my mind at the moment. It's not without directly saying what it actually is. It's very confidential. That's why I'm not saying it directly. But it is what it is, I suppose. I'm always going to be optimistic about anything that happens. It's led to some negative outcomes, but I'm adamant with who I am. I'm living a good life, happy life, and that is enough for me. That should be enough for anyone. Don't let obstacles get in the way. This is probably more parental advice than anything else, but I think, honestly, I went into this just ready to vent and go, okay, time to get angry at things. But going into this, the further I went into the stream, the more I realized this is probably stuff that just needs to be said. So, I don't know. Take what's said with a grain of salt. Go about things the way you think you should. But if life's going to hell, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Very simple. Or, here's another analogy. If a bull takes a dump on your lawn, somehow, what are you going to do? Complain? Get mad at whoever owns it? Or are you just going to clean it up and be the better person? It's an animal that probably doesn't know better. This is the idea for anything in reality. We can complain all we want, but it's not going to get us anywhere. If anything, it's going to send us the opposite direction. Consider that when approaching the next parts of life. When we go through the rest of the crap that we're going through right now, which realistically will probably last 2 or 3 more years, if I were to guess. After that, we can move on from this crap hole and move on to something else. But I think I've said enough. With all that said, thanks for everybody who kind of chilled in the stream. There's no text at all today. Kind of interesting how it would end up against, like, covering this wall. But if anybody has their opinions on this, let me know in the comments below of the video version of this, which should be showing up maybe 10-15 minutes after this is finished. For those of you who sat in idly, please give the video a like and consider supporting or subscribing to the channel. I forgot to change the... actually I can work with that. You can either do through the Patreon I have or CashApp, which are both in the description below for reference. But either way, thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully, we'll probably get to Persona tomorrow. But in the meantime, thanks again. And